Hi,
There
Chad.
he is, Chad Calek.
Hey, Chad, what's up?
Big fan, fellow metalhead.
Thanks, buddy. How are you?
It's Patrick from the stand.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
We're just talking. I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to the paranormal. Dan kind of says that
Understandable.
Yeah, it's hard to find. It's hard to find evidence that I find credible. It's really, it's difficult. So
That's what the movie's about, though.
Yeah, and I just told
would
him
agree,
I was in a place that they said there was a couple strippers got murdered. It was a comedy club, and I had my backpack in a green
my
room.
house.
Yeah, and a door slammed on me. That when I was going to get my backpack, and then I opened the door, grabbed my backpack, and was gone.
And it was only sort of a windy day, so
It
it
was,
probably
yeah.
wouldn't have slammed that hard.
It's in the middle of Hurricane Sandy. It was not, but it definitely creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I was gone.
Do you think if a bunch of Dan thinks that because he heard that a bunch of strippers had died at this club or been murdered at this club, it was a mafia club or whatever, and it became a comedy club, and that's where the door got slammed. Do you think stripper ghosts would slam a door like that?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, out of all the years that I've done this, and I've been doing this for like 25 now, typically, if I could guess, and this is all theories, remember, because this is a field of questions, not answers, you know?
Right.
Unatoned tragedies I would say would be the number one reason that things happen. Meaning, if something really negative happened and it's been completely like brushed aside, and no one's acknowledged what it is. We've seen that be a case, or be the case at most hauntings where things happen. So
Like
if
if
something horrible happened to this stripper,
Like
and
murder,
and no one is acknowledging it, then there's a good possibility that something like that could happen.
So are you saying that the TV show The Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt was close to being the truth?
I've only watched that show a few times, to be honest.
Nothing like some big titties to get a ghost. Fucking all riled up,
I keep forgetting we're on serious right now. We can talk like this.
Yeah,
of course.
You talk about those big old titties bringing people back from the dead.
Yeah.
big fat tits. You go to grab them, and your hands just meet because there's no.
Oh, this is hell!
The big titties are definitely the reason to watch the show.
Have you ever heard of them talk? Have you ever heard an apparition or anything talk?
Yeah, well, we catch EVPs all the time.
What's that?
And disembodied. But an EVP is when, like, you're asking questions and there's nothing in the room, nobody but you, and you'll get a response on recording, but you won't hear it yourself. And there's also what they call disembodied voices, which is when a voice will just come ringing out of nowhere. And I've certainly experienced this over the years.
What do they say?
Certainly. Well, it depends. A lot of times it depends on the questions you're asking. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you get really intelligent responses that are dead on, and sometimes they don't make sense.
Do you believe in like the communicators, like the little blonde kid on E that talks to celebrities? Ghost
He's
people?
my favorite.
You like him?
Oh, dude, that guy.
like,
Celebrity
I-
medium?
Yeah, I've been scribbling on this notepad, and what I see is that your sister died of cancer. Is that right?
Yeah. See, in the field, the paranormal field, I'm probably about the most skeptical hunter, I guess you could say, or investigator you'll find. The mediums don't really like me all that well because I don't get it. I'm not a psychic, right? So I don't understand it. And I was a part of a show called Paranormal State that included psychic walkthroughs.
Yeah.
And I've seen how they're made. Like they basically, bring the psychics in and they'll walk around for like 3 hours guessing.
Really?
So I would call these guys guessers. You know what I mean? I said, bring in the
So you
guesser, and they'll chop together the 5 things they hit.
That
in a
actually
row.
makes sense as opposed to the 95 things that they miss.
100%. So,
Okay.
like, from my stance, I'm trying to get something real and see something real. So when I see that, that doesn't mean that there's not psychic ability and there aren't people that can hit it and could nail things, but I've never seen it.
A lot of it is so vague, right? Like
Soft reading.
You naturally read things. Like we all naturally read things
Yeah.
about people in general. And the subconscious is working all the time. So when you walk into a room, I could walk through a room and guess for 3 hours. There's going to be 5 things I hit on.
Yeah,
You know
he
what I
owned
mean?
hats. Yes.
Yes, he did.
Right.
That's my grandfather.
He loved hats. Is he
This
here? Is he wearing
this is-
one?
It's
There's a hat rack in the corner.
It's a key thing that psychics always do. They ask questions, and then they position it as proof. Like they'll say things like, "Who is John?"
Yeah, I used to.
And then someone will go, "Well, John's my uncle." God, he nailed it. No, he asked you.
Right, and the
He
pressure
asked you who is John,
and the
you
pressure's
said
now
it.
on you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the pressure's on you
Right.
to fill in his gap.
What I
Right?
want to see him do is say, I know your Uncle John.
Yeah.
His last name is this, and this is, you know what I mean?
Never happens,
Until I see that from that kind of detail from the psychical community, or the psychic medium community, it's just hard for me to say that I can believe it. You know what I mean?
I used to watch Crossing Over with John Edwards, and it always seemed like the biggest bullshit.
It did?
Yeah,
To you?
'cause he
Why
would
did you
always-
watch it? Did it inspire you?
No, I was stoned on the couch at 3:30 in the afternoon, and it was on UPN or whatever channel it was on. And I'd
Yeah.
be like,
Crazy.
oh.
My business partner went to his show just to check it out.
Yeah.
And he was actually impressed by him.
Really?
It's really impressed me. He said live that he pulls off some amazing stuff. So I haven't seen
Gotta
him, so
see him
I don't
live.
know.
But that's what
But
always
I guess
happens, though.
that's it.
Like it's easy to be skeptical when you're watching on a screen, but like so many of these guys are super charismatic too, right?
Right.
So like once you see them and they're looking at you in the eyes,
right.
and you kind of watch them do their thing,
They're hucksters.
you get swept up by it
Right.
a
They're
lot
hucks.
of times.
Yep.
They're touching you on your leg while they're taking your wallet.
That's
right.
it.
Where he's like, "Oh, is this a new sweater? Who's Mark? My dead brother."
So
Yeah.
I watched the Sir NoFace movie. How
Very
much
cool.
like
You actually saw a rough
It's a
cut
rough
that's
cut.
20 minutes longer than the actual film that we're showing. So you actually got more of the story than most of it.
can I talk
so.
about the end of it?
Well,
or is that a
don't give it all away, but if you're don't give away. You know what part I'm talking about here? It's not.
Oh
know
man,
what?
Sam's gonna blow this. Let me just tell you right now.
He's pointing at his dick.
What? We'll just,
That we think Sir NoFace is one thing and he's another thing. That's what I'm
right.
talking
No.
about. Yeah,
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
give
Totally.
that away.
Totally.
Okay,
I won't give
gotcha,
that away. No.
gotcha.
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
But like, I really the premise of the movie, and you do it as part of the the tour, the Sir NoFace Lives tour, is that so there's this island in Australia, and it's exactly what you were talking about. It's like a very, very haunted island.
Well, supposedly haunted.
Supposedly.
They say haunted.
Allegedly.
Yes, because of its
Allegedly.
history.
Yes,
Yeah.
because there was a prison on it, and then they also found a torture room
Yep.
that was buried that they didn't talk about. That was other stuff was on top of it, and there's this ghost that is reportedly.
I have a question about that
living
before you
there.
go on. The torture room you mentioned. How did they find the torture room? Like, what made them dig down there to find that?
There was the story was there were some archaeologists that were digging around there, and they were looking for Aboriginal artifacts, and they came across this.
Okay.
That's how this happened, supposedly.
And so the premise is that this Australian ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, whatever, found this ghost, this apparition.
Well, back up. This actually, what happened was the Australian government sanctioned this paranormal investigation. They had the island. They owned this island that was a naval base, and they were looking for something to do with it because it hadn't been used since World War II. So they turned it into a public park, and they put all these like amazing tents and barbecue pits and all this stuff. And you can go there today. There's 4 free ferries. It's a beautiful, you could stand and look at the Opera House, the bridge, but there's not a soul on this island.
Really?
Did
Because
people go to it
have
to camp
gone
or no?
there. Well, they don't because they're scared of it.
But-
After hundreds of reports from civilians and from staff that worked for the government.
Yeah.
Finally, they were trying to figure out what's going on, so they reached out to this gentleman, Craig, Craig Powell, who's the head of the West Sydney Paranormal Research Team, and they gave him the keys to the castle, essentially.
Who's Craig?
And he's got the only known or one of the only known videos of a full-bodied apparition.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see
How realistic is the video?
Extremely. I mean,
the video is realistic.
Yeah, let me start out by saying this. When I set out to make this movie, I truthfully set out to debunk this man.
Are you a doubting Thomas?
The thing is, I am. I'm a believer, obviously, because I do this, but, I've just seen 99% of most things can absolutely be proven. They really can. So,
And that's the whole movie is like figuring out if this guy's lying or telling the truth.
right. And you kind of come on my journey, right? Yeah.
Right. And I went on your journey with you, and I have to tell you, just based on, you say you read people and conversations and stuff. Just as a person, I don't want to spoil whether or not the ghost is a real ghost or not, but as a human being, he seems like a liar of a person. Like he seems
Craig?
like he seems like a
wait.
guy who lies constantly.
Dude, and the thing was like so many that's why every single thing with him I had to started with right down to where did you play football, where did you do that, you'll see in the movie I'm separating him from his wife, his friends, everybody to try to figure out, can I catch him in a lie? When this whole thing started, I looked at him and said, I'm going to make 1 or 2 movies because I want to tell the story. It's either going to be this amazing journey that you went on with this incredible evidence, or it's going to be a documentary about a dude that I'm going to expose to the world as the biggest liar known to man.
Which
What
one
was
were
your-
you? Yeah.
Sorry, Dan. What was the first moment where you said that he may be full of bull sugar? What happened?
Well, the first time of seeing the footage, and when he told me it was a government investigation, you know, I was like, well, governments don't do this. But then he starts giving me all the paperwork, and it all adds up. And then the government contacts me, and I'm waiting for them to say to me, hey, you know, we never did this. And they don't. They say, hey, can you not use our names in the emails?
No shit.
And I'm like, whoa, yeah, well, no, I'm going to keep your names in because you're a public servant. But so you don't deny this? We have no comment. You know, like they just didn't want to touch anything. The thing is, I couldn't catch the guy lying anywhere.
So he's slippery.
He's either slippery or he's being
One of those
honest.
slippery Aussies.
Yeah.
When I finally took the footage to a friend of mine, Danny Patterson, is like one of the head CGI animators in Hollywood. He did he was like the guy that brought Transformers to life. He did Iron Man, Avengers, Benjamin Button. I took the footage to him and said, like, you know, can you tell me if this is CGI? Like I'm not an expert in this. And his first response, which I loved, he said, well, listen, dude, I can't tell you this is a ghost because I don't believe in ghosts. And I said, well, good. Just tell me, is it CGI or not? And he came back and he's like, yeah, no, there's nothing about this that says it's CGI. In fact, he makes
the big, like...
Yeah, he kind of makes his own as well, and you could see the difference.
Do these on these islands? Are there a lot of cases of people being like touched or fucked with by these ghosts?
Yeah, nothing negative as far as like hurt or no one's scratched.
Oh, well,
no one's
that's good.
I like a friendly ghost. if you ask
there you
me.
go, right?
I'm more of a Casper guy.
I like a good-natured ghost.
Yeah, but there's phenomenal things that happen. Like the first story he told me, and again, I had to see the footage of it, check it out for myself, talk to people, is he said, I have this personal relationship with this ghost, sir. And he said, we all do. And I could get him to show me his light. Like he'll walk up and say, sir, can we see your light? And like a lightning bolt, this massive light would go off in the room.
No shit.
Yes, and he's like, I can do this on call. And in fact,
Dan is hooked. By
I'm on board. That's all it took. No, but I mean, I am close
Not
enough to the
only-
edge that. Like,
Because when he was a kid, he would say that, but instead of light, it would be genitals.
I go, excuse me, Mark, mom's boyfriend, can I see your light? And he goes, hey, your mom's at work for another hour. I don't see the harm.
Well, it was crazy. Well, not only did he do it for his team and having it filmed, but he went and grabbed skeptics literally like on the mainland, like who wants to come see this? 'Cause
I'll
we're trying
go
to
see you,
document this.
crazy ghost.
He goes,
I like to fight him if possible.
well, he brought people from the government out, and the government freaked out.
What's the island?
They were like, wow, Cockatoo Island. That's the name of it. Hilarious name, right? I know. It doesn't sound that menacing, right?
No, it doesn't.
Wait till you actually see it. It's actually very scary. But what's really freaky about this, I said, man, someone there had to plug something or whatever. He was like, oh, no, knock yourself out. Like, there's no power to the building.
Hey, Chad, is there any...
I'm like, you're kidding.
Now, when you say a light would illuminate the room, would it be like it would just get brighter?
It's just like poof. And the crazy thing is, it's so bright, it's not casting shadows, meaning that like the light source would be coming from everywhere.
It's just like this giant flash
Yeah.
that fills up everything with white light and then stops.
Yeah.
Chad, is there any footage of this that's not
the
in your
video.
film?
No, everything I'm talking about now is in the film.
But is there any footage that isn't?
Oh yeah. There's a bunch of more footage of things that happened. They
Can
were
we
there
look this
for
guy up,
over
Troy, so we
two-
can see while we're talking to Chad, maybe see like one of his ghosts?
No, he doesn't put anything on YouTube.
Why?
Because that's like where footage goes to die. There's so much hoax footage on YouTube.
What does he do with
Trying
that?
to get paid.
That's the thing. No, here's the thing. I'll be completely transparent. He never asked me for a buck, has still not asked me for a buck ever. He sat on the footage for I knew him for a year before he told me about this. And that's a big point of mine the whole time where I'm like, why? Why did
Is he
you
dumb?
tell
I
me
thought it was-
about this?
I thought it was because ghosts don't like YouTube comments too.
Yeah.
Because they can hurt the undead
Yeah.
as well as the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still have feeling.
Hey, I tried to illuminate the whole. I don't know why I'm doing Don Pardo from SNL.
Because he's dead.
Yeah, he is. It's me. Yeah, like show yourself, featuring. He just does all the dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? At the end of the movie, it says Cockatoo Island is shut down.
Yeah.
But then on the website, it says that you could still do like. It says they do glamping on Cockatoo Island.
What's glamping?
Glamping is like glamorous camping for rich folk.
You're watching.
dude.
You're watching the rough cut, right? So
Yes.
since that's happened, what's weird is they're saying that you can do like paranormal a tour or whatever right now.
Yeah.
But they don't take them anywhere. They don't take them anywhere that they were at.
It's a scam?
They just walk them around the bottom of the island. They don't take them to any of the rooms, none of the buildings, none of the anything.
But they tell them it's a paranormal tour, and then they don't go to the place with the most paranormal activity.
Of course, they walk around the island, tell them stories. You know, it's funny when we went there to film because I wanted to go, in the place.
Yeah.
You know? And the second we hit the dock, we were like 4 or 5 of these guys that work on the island just descended upon us. And their thing was like, well, what are you filming for? You can't film here. And we were like, oh, no, we're just tourists. We're just tourists filming. So they're driving around in go-karts trying to find us. And we had to have like people be like the lookout to get an interview with Craig on the island. Like they did not want him on there. They didn't want it. And it was
Why don't they want?
Why?
This is what I think happened. This is just my gut. And Craig has his own thoughts too, which I think he's actually pretty on. When they put all this time and money into this island, and this took them by surprise, all this paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're sitting around going, well, not being afraid of what it is. I think they're just kind of saying, well, we need to find a way to flip this. You know what I mean? So let's call like Craig, who's like a native son. He's like from West Sydney, where this is at. Former rugby guy. He's a charismatic dude.
Yeah.
And I think they were looking for them to go in and kind of make it fun and say, yeah, we got an EVP. We got a few footsteps. Come on. We'll like be your guide. But then he turns around and says, hey, come out here, and lightning bolts are going off inside the building. They're showing footage of, like, this creature, this ghost, like, moving around and looking at the camera, and they were freaked out. And I think they just went, whoa, we don't know what's going on. We don't know why he's doing it. Stop it.
Is there footage of the ghost in this?
This too much, guys.
I have the flash.
Let me see the flash.
Yeah, and there's footage of the ghost, too.
Yeah, well, that's the feature, so yeah.
In the movie. You just have to find
Well,
it.
that makes people definitely want to see this.
So I run over to my partner Thomas because
You're not
he
showing this
experiences
online, right?
with me
No.
too.
No, okay, thank
No,
God.
yeah.
Oh, they uploaded it to YouTube.
Audio only.
Okay, gotcha.
In order to see it, you have to go to the Sir NoFace Lives
Yeah,
tour.
you have to fast forward a little bit to actually see the...
Of the schoolhouse. So
And you can go to the tour at sirnoface.com tonight at the White Eagle Theater in Jersey City.
Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at the White Eagle.
It says tonight's a mistake. And tomorrow, when's the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank? The
Thursday, I
Trocadero
guess.
in Philly and Ridgefield Playhouse in Ridgefield, Connecticut. It's got you tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. Tonight is Tuesday.
Is today the
8:15.
The 15th, no, we're in Jersey City at the White Eagle Theater, August 16th. August 17th, we're at the Count Basie in Red Bank. August 18th at the Trocadero, and August 19th at the Ridgefield
Travis
Playhouse.
made a humiliating mistake.
That's all good. You can get tickets at www.sirnoface.com. You could watch all the trailers, all this stuff, and videos from out this tour, so you can see people's responses and what they've thought of it. And that's been the funnest part of this whole tour is, the Q&A afterward. It's been awesome because everybody, like, skeptics are coming out, believers are coming out, and it's just such an amazing case. That I don't,
Do you think the Warrens were full of shit? Because I watched the Conjuring movies and then, did all the Warrens research, which I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And after the first one, I was like, oh, this is cool. And, read about the real Annabelle doll that they have and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then the second movie came out. And I started reading about the true case that the second
Infield,
movie was
Poltergeist,
based
right.
on. And there were so many holes
Yeah, well,
in that theory, and it was like it made me be like, oh, man.
Was that the movie makers that did that, though? That might have been the movie makers.
I know.
No,
I know Lorraine.
there's articles. You go
Alpacas.
back and you look at the articles from the time, and there's people disproving the stuff that the Warrens did.
Well, weren't the Lutzes shown to be kind of bullshit, too?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, I know Lorraine. My family. I have a documentary on my life story called American Ghost Hunter. That's out there right now, and Lorraine is in this documentary. Her last case that she investigated was my family's case. I've known Lorraine for years. The thing that I would tell you about Lorraine is very, very old school. Very go to Sunday school. Very religious. Like she approaches everything with a religious tone, which not a lot of people dig. What she says, at least I've asked her about, past cases and stuff, and she says that in all the cases that she's done, they eventually stopped talking to media because she was saying that in her belief that the reality of anything that happens everybody's trying to get a piece of it because they're all capitalizing on it,
I
right?
see.
Ghost shirts, ghost mugs.
Well, books like the
Yeah.
Lutz. What happened with the Lutz is everybody and their brother was banking on that case in Amityville, except the Lutzes.
Right.
My guess is the Lutzes kind of realized they were late to the party.
Yeah.
And then there were certain details in interviews at the very end that started changing.
To make a little money, where they go, "Oh, we didn't tell you the full story."
If I had to guess. Yeah, I guess they're kind of looking around going, everybody's rich off our stuff but us. You know what
Okay,
I mean?
the DeFeos didn't do well either.
No. Well, Ronnie's in. Is he dead yet? He might
I
have
don't
died
know.
already.
Look up Ronnie DeFeo.
He's changed his story so many times. Too.
Who is the DeFeos? I don't know these last.
Amityville Horror. He was the guy that killed his family, which
Yeah.
they say sparked the entire thing. And George Lutz and his wife were the ones who moved into the house that saw
Got
a
it.
ghost.
It sounded like you guys were just naming families you grew up with. You're like, what about the Lutzes? You're like, the DeMayos were good. I like them. Good barbecue, fun.
He's had spouses though. He's been married, Ronnie DeFeo.
So he's still alive. The guy who murdered his family in Amityville.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
74.
I mean, I knew. Oh, he's 74 years old.
no.
Okay.
He murdered them in 74.
Okay.
He's 65 now.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that has. I did a documentary called "The First Amityville." And what's really strange, you could also check this out on aghtelevision.com, my website there. It's about how Amityville, believe it or not, it's a complete copycat case. Way back in like 1912 in Iowa, there's a place called the Villisca Axe Murder House. It's the same exact crime, except with an axe and not a rifle. They don't know how the person did it. There was one person. There's the question of, was it one person or was it another? Did someone help him? They arrested this guy, George Jacqueline Kelly, but he said a black figure came to me and said, "Suffer the children unto me." DeFeo said a black figure came to him, brought him to like literally the same case.
Were they
in
aware?
Iowa.
Like, was DeFeo aware of the case?
Well, that's what I don't know.
He might have read it.
Like, right. For all we know, he read it, or the Lutzes could have read it. Like, we don't know. But the details are identical.
So what about the family after? Was there a family after saying they saw ghosts?
The family that lived there after, every family that's lived there since has not reported.
I mean, Amityville, they have not. There's no Jody the pig. Apparently and then they changed the face of the house too now.
Yes, the windows are gone. The Dutch windows that look like the eyes. What's back to this case that was a copycat case. The same thing. What's crazy about it is the Villisca Axe Murder House also had the Dutch windows.
Now, do you think they
Yeah.
did that because they just got sick of tourists?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the people that are living there are just living their lives, and this is going on.
They know
Got a
4
good
people
deal
were
on a
killed.
house.
4 people were killed in that house.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
Well, more than anything, they know it's the Amityville house. If you
Right.
buy it, you should expect that's going to happen. You know what I mean? People are going to be coming there every single day. It's to this day.
I think I've
still
driven
the
by
most
it
common
once.
case. I to be honest, I never have. I mean, I've been through the neighborhood in the area and never stopped by it.
But as going to something as intense as this Australian island,
Yeah.
is something like Amityville, you're like, I don't give a shit about that. I kind of know what it is. I know where it comes from, as
This
opposed
case in general was the most mind-boggling thing I've ever come across. I truthfully believe the footage is authentic.
Yeah.
The trail of people that experienced this and to not be able to shake any of them. And the fact that, again, let's remember, this didn't start with Craig. This started with the government. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. It
That's the
started
weird
with them.
part.
Yeah, it didn't start
Right.
with Craig. Can we see the flash, Troy?
Yeah, here you go. I don't know why there's no audio.
You got to hit play. There you go. There you
Oh,
go.
here it comes. They're in the dark right now. And you'll see this flash go off.
That's the light going on when you
Yeah,
saw
the
the
entire
people.
room lit up. You can see them all sitting there.
What's crazy is you'll see the interview with Raw. Here's a replay of it.
Go slow motion. Oh no.
wow.
And there's another one again. Hold on. We have another. There's another one where it happens that they filmed. It's coming right up, and you'll see this guy that is responding to this.
Right.
He's Craig's travel agent. He's not even like a ghost hunter. He just brought him out there to see it. Told him about it. Check it out. Look at this.
You see the flash?
Yeah.
Are you in, Soder, or are you out?
Yeah.
Wait, who's the guy with the flashlight?
What?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, this
Dude,
whole
you had
time
me
is just
freaking out for a second. I'm going, what?
It's just all something. This entire time has just been Australians freaking out at flashlights.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got the light in your hand,
Yeah,
and then it
it's
goes
really
off and it
crazy.
goes on. Can you control light like that?
Super
I mean,
crazy.
that would, yeah, that shit would freak me the fuck out.
Oh yeah, well, especially there's one of my favorite parts of the interviews is when I'm talking to Rob, and that's just one of his members on his team that was out there, and I say to him, like, he's talking about his relationship and that he's seen these lights, and I say to him, like, you do realize this sounds crazy as fuck, everything you're saying, and he's like, he pauses and he's like, I don't care, and he goes, I went out to the island 12 times, 12 times I saw the light.
Wow.
And you can see like the you know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah, but I
like,
wonder-
he's just sold. You know what I mean? He's
there-
sold, you know? So
But is there like a ghost green room where they're like, I got
Here they
an
come.
8:30 show. I gotta go do the lights for these fucking morons.
Like a
They don't
waiting
know
room.
that it's just me fucking taking a shit in the middle of a ghost shit in the middle of the room.
The waiting room in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're like, what do you guys got? You're like, I gotta go to that Australian fucking former prison.
So you were haunted when you were younger?
yeah, you know, it's weird that I would have never guessed in my adult career that it would involve anything with the paranormal. I grew up a total atheist. I mean, complete. Like my family never spoke of ghosts or God. Or my dad was an Air Force engineer. I'm just a man of math and science.
Right.
When I was 12 years old, my father, unfortunately, he was out of the Air Force now, and he was the chief engineer at a concrete company. And he was in a terrible explosion that burned 3/4 of his body. And he was supposed to die. The doctors took us to say goodbye to him twice. Both times he lived through. And this is the first time I ever heard my dad speak of anything supernatural. And the doctors were saying this was a miraculous recovery. And he was saying, well, no, it wasn't. My mother would stand in the burn unit with him, and she'd put her hand on the top of his head. It's the only place that he could be touched where he wasn't burned.
Jeez.
And she would just whisper to him, I'm here with you. Stay with me. I'm here with you. Stay with me. And he said that he could physically feel himself being healed through her touch, and he found God at this time. Again, I didn't find God.
And he
through
became a
this
religious
story.
guy?
He became a religious guy.
Interesting.
And I did not find God or become a religious guy through this story, but it was working for him, so I wasn't going to tell him no.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 12.
So you were 12, and then he went heavy religion. Like, did he go heavy, or just kind of I'm religious and I'll leave?
Religious for himself. Yeah,
Okay.
He didn't push it off or anything. But we had to move to Iowa because once you heal from, you never really heal from a burn. But it was 3/4 of his body just scar tissue. So he couldn't be in heat. We lived in southern Texas, and
Wow.
he'd have a heat stroke if he went outside for very long.
Because you
at
can't
all.
sweat.
Right, you can't sweat. Right.
Ugh.
So we had to move to southwestern Iowa, which is where their family's from. And because, my dad loves children and kids and all that stuff, but the scar tissue would scare them. So he just didn't want to be in a big city and all that type of stuff. So we bought and moved into this town called Persia, Iowa, a town of 336 people.
Yeah.
We bought a home that the two previous families moved out of because they said it was haunted. And not, really meaning, just because even my dad was religious, that doesn't necessarily mean he believes in ghosts and goblins
Right.
and all this stuff. At the time, we didn't have a ton of money, so it seemed like a good deal. The house was way cheap. They were just trying to dump it and get it off. And in that house is where everybody in my family had experiences, and crazy experiences that eventually my mother dealt with possessionary stuff. The film American Ghost Hunter is me trying to determine if my mother is just mentally, psychologically ill, or if there is something
Well,
spiritually
like what kind of
going
stuff
on.
did you experience?
Oh man, and it's funny. These are the stories I hate to tell because you would never believe it unless you were there.
But it's your experience.
Well, let me
like,
precursor by saying, yeah, I get it. You'd have to be there to see it. But
Sure.
look, the first experience I ever had that terrified me, and I was the last person. Everybody in my family experienced stuff until me, and I'm thinking my entire family is going crazy at once. What is going on? I was told, my dad told me you have a black spirit or a black looking thing that was at the end of his bed. My mother is saying she's being hit by things. There were spontaneous fires that started in the house at weird times. So my parents.
So you just walk into a room and there's be a mini fire going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I experienced that. I was sitting downstairs with my entire family, and I hear, it sounds like my little sister's VHS is on upstairs.
Yeah.
And, my dad's saying, Katie, go turn your VHS, your VHS on. She's like, I did. And I'm like, Katie, I could hear it. Go turn it off. you know, and she's, you know, adopted. She's, you know, 3 and 4 years old at this time. And I'm like, Katie, I could hear it. She's like, I turned it off. I run to the top of the stairs and look back, and her door to her room is closed. And under it, you can just see black smoke just moving across the floor.
What?
So I open it up, and yeah, all her dolls are on fire.
Oh, fuck that
So
shit.
maybe what you heard was the crackling of the flames.
And it could be. I don't know what I heard, but the thing was, there was no to this day. There was no source of the fire.
Well,
There
Katie
no-
was adopted. Do you think that she might have done that? She might have lit the fire for attention?
I don't know how at 3 years old she would have.
Oh, she was 3, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
nor would we leave her with something to light a fire. You
Oh,
know
my
what I mean?
parents always
Yeah.
did.
Oh, you did? Yeah. They go, here, Jim, happy birthday. Here's another barbecue lighter. Have fun. Go by the charcoal. Play with it.
Jim, please play with matches in traffic.
So was your dad? Where was your dad? Not? Was his face burned?
The only thing that wasn't burned was his face. Pretty
Oh,
much
okay.
the rest of his body was singed.
But it said it got to you before you
Okay.
finally believed.
Yeah, so my parents had gone grocery shopping, and I was left alone in the house.
First mistake.
Well, I mean, I didn't believe. Again, you have to think to that point in my life, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in anything like that. So I walked around the house going, okay, if there's something listening, you do whatever you want. Like, I want to see
You were saying
this.
that?
Oh, yeah, no, openly. Just
Out loud?
Out loud.
Wow.
You know, if there's something here, do whatever you want. I don't believe, you know. Nothing happened. I was like, all right, this is such bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
my
I'm gonna jerk
family's
off right
going
here on the couch.
crazy.
I'm home alone.
Jerk off in this ghost's face.
Yeah. That night, you know, I'm going to sleep, and like literally right as I'm, you know, going to close my eyes, I mean, it sounds like if you took your fist and you just hit the wall as hard as you possibly could, to the point that it rumbles the whole room. I mean, that's what I hear. And I sit straight up in bed. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, my brother's room is adjacent to me. So, like, push his door open. And I'm out of my room in 2 seconds. I'm like, what the? And I could not believe that he didn't hear anything. I was like, there's no way you couldn't have heard that. So I'm already playing devil's advocate to myself. I'm going, you know what, dude? You were almost falling asleep.
And you
know
heard a
what I
loud
mean?
noise and you ran.
Right. And I'm thinking, this could have been a dream. You're freaked out in this house
Sure.
24/7. So laying down, I tell my brother, I'm down next to you, bro. I'm not sleeping back in my room again, just in case I was right.
Right.
And he's just like, well, okay, whatever. But I didn't hear anything, which made me feel better, actually. I was like, okay, maybe that. So literally, we're both like just kind of talking about, you know, the things that mom and dad see. And he had an experience where he went down to shoot a pool ball. And you know, the pool balls, some of them have a little black circle right on the pool ball. And the pool ball moved, didn't roll. Slid when he went to hit it, and we were talking about that. And right as we fall, right as same kind of thing, right as we're falling asleep, I think he might have actually been asleep. I was still awake. Right as my eyes start to close, boom, back of the wall again, and I see him sit up, and he looks at me, and I'm like, "No, you heard that?" And we're like both sitting there, and boom, boom. Boom! It just starts happening on alternating walls.
No, fuck.
So this was my like first experience where the first thing that happened to me where I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, and it continued on that night. I mean, that was the first night my mother had possessionary issues where my dad woke up to her speaking weird and had her hair pulled and by things that weren't there, being
Jeez.
scratched and.
At what point are you like, let's just fucking
here's
move?
the
Yeah,
thing,
how do you not know your mother? How do you
the
not
thing
know
is
it was
they
what-
tried.
I have to
They
learn to
tried.
sweat, Dad. We're going back to Texas.
Yeah,
No, they-
but
they
mental
tried.
illness is what you thought it might be at first.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm even to this day, even having seen the things I've seen. Again, I'm still a believer in science. You know, like 99.99% of the time, there's an explanation.
Yeah, but the one is this. By the way, is this the ghost right here? No
Yep.
one else can see this but our show.
Yes, this is.
We're
Sir
not showing
NoFace.
that to anywhere. Can we see that?
Yeah,
Just
yeah. Watch him peek out. Yeah.
This is the video of the full body apparition that nobody has.
There we go. I added this stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
for flair.
Yeah. And there it is, and then just chill. What the
What
fuck?
the fuck?
You'll see it. They'll bring it back up and we'll slow it down for you to get a look at it.
He's
like-
got
looks
old
like
timey.
soda.
He's got old timey face though.
And they'll rerun it again.
Is that his
Almost
shadow?
you can see it.
How tall is he?
So I don't want to give it a lot.
Good
of stuff
question,
away.
Dan.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's fucking creepy.
What's really weird?
Because he looks like he lives there, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are still here?
All right.
All right. I'm gonna go back to bed. You all want anything? Water? No. My friend did his lightning trick. All right.
All right.
Yeah. You're good then. Yeah.
He's like the end of Ferris Bueller. Like, you're still here.
Yeah.
Go. It's over.
The one thing that
I'm not
really,
doing any more light
He's in
tricks.
his bathrobe. He's like,
Yeah.
the one thing about the footage to me that hit me right away is in the 25 years that I've
There's a
been doing
shadow
this.
dome.
There's twice. Well, when these things manifest, they get physical, and I've seen that at my house. That's kind of the point I was getting. In the 25 years that I've done this, I believe I have seen a ghost twice.
okay.
And two things about it both times blew my mind. One being that there appears to be some sort of mass to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, they just move independent of our physics and the way we move. There's just a fluidity to how they move, and the way this kind of moves in and moves out, especially its arm. And
Like, it doesn't look like so we see this full-bodied apparition, as it's called, peek out a doorway and then go back in, so it disappears. But it doesn't. When it moves, you're right. It doesn't move like
Doesn't move
in
like a
footsteps.
human. And
Like,
you-
it doesn't
yeah,
look like
and-
it's stepping and then stepping. It looks like it's flowing.
I
in
kind of
and flowing
disagree
out.
because watching that, it kind of looks like you just pop around the corner and be like, "Nah, now they're here," and then like it looks like if you thought someone was in the other room and they go, "Hey, NoFace, can you see if that camera crew's still there?" That's the look he does. Where he goes, "Yeah, no, they're there."
Yeah.
no,
There you
it's,
go.
it's close. I mean, it's human-ish. You know, Danny, the animator. That's one of the things that they do as animators is they study the physics of the human body.
Yeah.
Right? Because when they create stuff, they got to get it right.
Right. Yeah.
And that's one things that he said to me too. He said humans don't just move that perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We see it again?
We just by nature we're herky jerky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it
And
does,
this is
but I'm saying
really
this
smooth.
there does have like a little bit of a human movement
Yeah, yeah.
tinge to it
Sure,
of like,
sure.
Show her my no face.
yeah. He's like this. He's like, I mean, it is fucking terrifying.
It's freaky. You can fast forward a little bit. It's coming out in just a second. Yeah.
Go on now.
Oh.
I've seen a ghost.
Look, Chad,
Really?
you're killing me with the time frame there.
Now it's just the music.
Oh no! Yep, no.
Right after this, it comes.
See, there is kind of like
It's
a
very like
with the shoulder. There's kind of like
it's like a
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it dodges and moves back super
jerks,
fluid.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
yeah.
humans by nature are just a little more herky jerky than
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy footage.
Yeah. What do you think, Jim?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm so skeptical.
The whole thing was so the
But
whole
I don't know.
movie.
I hope you get a chance to watch the whole
I'll
thing,
watch some of
brother.
it. Yeah, I'll watch the whole thing.
It's
Yeah,
taking that
because-
footage and like showing it to like the CGI animator, showing it to this guy,
Right,
getting
right,
different
right.
You
people's
gotta
takes
remember,
on it.
Like, what makes anything real or fake is context,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's one thing that Craig did that was smart when he said, because I said to him, why you never throw it on YouTube? And he said, on YouTube, there's no context to anything. It's just another piece of footage. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
if
a
that's on
smart
YouTube.
move,
If
you know
that's
what I
on
mean?
YouTube, if it's just by itself on YouTube,
well,
it's
that's
fake. Yeah.
Well, everything is fake on YouTube, right?
Right.
It's like that's what. So it's smart for him to do that to keep it off, you know. But that was my whole time with him. I was like, "Did you set a trap for me?" You see that in the beginning of the film, where I'm asking him to do his face. You know what I mean? I'm just like, "Did you do this? You knew I was coming. You came to my show. You know what I mean? You
Right.
met me here. You know." But again, I knew him for a year, and he didn't tell me about it until a year after I knew him.
And then he didn't tell you about this island or anything about it until
No.
after a year after he knew you.
Yeah, I
And
knew
then
him
he's
for
like, "You
about
got to
a
see
year."
this."
Yeah. Well, it happened. Some of my fans over there said, "We want to go ghost hunting with you. You brought this film of Blood Red Sky over, but we want to ghost hunt." I don't know where to ghost hunt. I don't have the connections. He had the West Sydney Paranormal Research Team. That's his team. So I called him and said, "Do you have a connection that we can go to? I'd like to do an event for some fans." And he said, "Yeah, actually, I have access to this island right now. You can do the event out there." And at that time, I didn't really look into the island that much. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. He's got a cool place." Just before I went over there, I was just like, "What is this?
Right.
Where am I going?" You know what I mean? So it's the craziest experience I have ever been a part of. I truly believed in the beginning that between him and the 8 members of his team and all the people that were involved and the government, I figured I would catch somebody tripping up here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Someone would fuck up.
Somebody
Nobody
will fuck
did.
up. Nobody, man. Not even close. And you see in the film, there's many times where you talk about where I think I got him. Where I'm like,
Right.
maybe he lied about that. Ooh, I think maybe I have him here. And I'm going all the way with it. Like I'm sitting his wife down, looking her straight in the eye and going, you have every reason to hoax this.
Right.
Like like we're going after it. And the bottom line, man, is I couldn't find an ounce of deception.
Were you guys in the room when that thing happened, or where was this?
No, I wasn't. This was during their so when this happened, it's like 4 hours and 30-some minutes after the island, the guards had locked the building and shut it, and they just left a cam, which is very common. When you go something, you just leave cameras in rooms, you pick a spot, plot it, leave it on. And the hope is that in a perfect world, something like this happens.
Who saw this footage for the first time?
Well, Craig was the one who found it, but he was not on the island when this happened. His wife was, and 3 other team members.
Yeah.
And 2 guards.
But like in the morning, did they come in the morning and like rewatch the tape and be like, oh,
no,
fuck.
in fact, it was a night that they reported that nothing really happened. They just they didn't even see this in the morning. They just showed back up in the morning, grabbed their camera because they left it running overnight, got the guards to unlock it, open it back up, left, went home, dumped the footage off to Craig because he's got the deck.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, a couple nights later, he came across it.
Jesus.
So
Have you ever been in a hotel?
Sure.
And you're like, this is.
yeah,
Ah, Jim, what's that
oddly
like?
enough, I'm fucking in
Yeah,
my
you
head.
check in, they do everything for you. It's
Yeah,
great. You
it's
come in
really-
a towel, you leave it on the floor, it's gone the next day.
What?
Right.
Have you ever been in a hotel that you feel is haunted?
Oh, sure.
And but they don't tell you?
Yeah, well, it depends. Some hotels obviously realize there's a financial benefit to saying it's haunted.
Yeah.
There's people that like the Stanley Hotel in
Yeah.
Estes Park, Colorado, right? They
My
advertise
mom
The
used-
Shining, The Shining. You know
My
what I mean?
mom worked there in college.
And it's a
What's it
haunted
called? What's the
hotel.
hotel?
It is. It's,
The Stanley in Estes Park, Colorado.
Is that where The Shining was shot?
No, the
but it's based on
Overlook is
it.
where Overlook Hotel is where it was shot. But Stephen King had his experience staying in the Estes Park Stanley.
Now, is the Stanley a nice hotel?
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Stanley.
But it's
My
old.
mom, yeah, my
It's
mom,
old, scary. Creepy.
my mom worked there in
It's haunted.
college because my mom went to college in Colorado and in Estes Park. She worked at the Stanley, and she said like it was haunted. Like
Really?
Like she said she would go into a banquet room and
It is haunted, yeah.
And they would have the tables set up, everything after like a dinner service. They would like clean the tables and have them all set. And then in the morning when she'd come in, the tables would be stacked on each other, like moved into weird places in the room, blocking doors. Like
Did she
weird
ever
shit.
hug a guy getting out of the tub?
Yeah. That character was based on my mom.
I'd like to stay there, and it's still an active hotel.
Yeah, very much.
It's on. I have I'll email Roland some footage for you guys to see from the Stanley. I have an amazing piece of evidence I captured there.
But
That
my-
is mind-bending.
My mom worked there in I think right before The Shining came out, or before The Shining, and she said like the staff was pretty much just like, yeah, there's the ghosts. There's like a lady that a whale at one point.
No,
There's
it truly is haunted.
like,
It
but
truly
they're
is,
like, yeah, they're like, it's normal. They're just like, nah, no, it's just like normal.
What's
thing.
the footage that you're going to send to Roland? What does it show?
It's myself, my wife, and a friend of mine, and we're in the employee break room. And you hear these 4 boot steps walk up to us, and it happens at a time where I literally accidentally dropped the camera, and you could see my feet, my wife's feet, and the guys that I'm with, and we're all wearing like rubber sneakers, so it's not us going click, 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 click. In front of us to the left, there's a little breakfast table and a chair, and you could hear it slide on its own. And my wife, who's not a ghost hunter, is a school teacher, I'm just like forcing her out there with me, you know what I mean? You hear her scream bloody murder, and right in the middle of the room, this black shadow just stands up. Like, remember I said there was some kind of mask to him?
Yep.
It like envelops over this string that's hanging, you can see it in, and just with the same fluidity that you see here, fires out the room. And I'll send you guys this. You can see it for yourself.
Yeah.
I won't sit in this room if you're going to yell at me. Your wife offended the ghost.
No, but you know
I
what
just wanted to
sucks?
pull up a seat.
What year did you film this in the Stanley?
Oh, this would have been back, I want to say 2006.
Okay.
And what's so funny about ghost hunting with people that are not ghost, I hate it. I hate taking her out because it's a lot of this. Like you're sitting there and it's like,
Was that a ghost?
something going to happen soon. I don't know, babe. So this is what you do with your time.
Yeah. You know.
Is it in the mountains of
guess.
Stanley?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you
Estes
got to
Park
drive
is-
a good 30 minutes to get there.
By the way, it's a gorgeous drive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Really?
a fucking gorgeous
Is it a fun
drive.
place to stay for a couple of days?
Oh, yeah, man.
I don't know. I've never stayed there.
It is. It is. It's a beautiful place. They've got an awesome restaurant there. Great view. Like, no matter what, it's just the most beautiful view.
I'll have the ghost cutlets, please.
That's really, really funny. That's great. That's really something spectacular.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by that because I think more than them, I believe in ghosts.
Well, you know, one of the reasons that I love doing tours like this is the U.S. Gallup poll and Monash University, which oddly enough is an Australian university. They both conducted, I want to say it was in the early 2000s, 2003, and then I think 2006. I might be wrong on this. You can Google it out there in Radioland. But they both did 2 separate surveys to determine worldwide belief in the paranormal. And both of them, independently of each other, basically figured out that it was somewhere between 70 to 76% of the population actually believes in the paranormal.
Yeah.
And what I used to say about that, I said, wow, so if there's like, 6 billion people in the world and say 70% believe in them, and if you just take claims, right, that people have claims, I saw something, I know it, this moved, I saw it. We're talking about hundreds of millions of claims a year that go on with the paranormal. Only takes one for it to be real, one to be authentic for it to be real.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Right.
Because there's certainly a degree of hoaxers. There's certainly a degree of crazy fuckers.
Honest mistakes.
There's a degree of honest mistakes, but there's also that that shaving of 1% of things that just don't make sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the world's filled with those.
What do you think of all the movies, especially lately? I feel like the paranormal as a subject matter in horror movies has become like the new thing with the Conjuring universe, because it's spawned off like what 4 or 5.
That was a very frightening
movies?
movie.
The Conjuring.
yeah.
You see The Conjuring too? You see Annabelle?
I
You see
didn't.
Annabelle
I
too?
didn't like the skinny thing in The Conjuring too. I'm like, all right, but the original Conjuring frightened
Well,
me.
that's the thing about the those movies is that they started actually showing the demon or the thing
Right.
that was, and so you're taking a risk when you do that, because back in the day it used to be like you wouldn't actually see
Yeah.
the monster.
I heard a ghost when I was a kid, but I never
Which
saw
is-
one.
Where'd you hear one?
Where'd you hear
In
it
my,
go?
in my room.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I did.
Were you asleep?
I don't want to talk about it.
No, Jim.
They
We've
start
all
with
been
tummy kisses.
we've
No.
all been sharing. What happened with the ghost in the room?
Just said one thing.
What did it say? I like dicks.
Get it, Sam.
It was a premonition,
It was Sam.
It's a soundbite of me out of context. It's just a
like a YouTube video.
it's just an
Yeah, no.
interruption to a conversation.
Yes, it was.
A total interruption. But what do you think of
well-
of the, not you,
Oh.
Jim? You
Well, you know what's weird? Like, as someone who was obviously heavily involved in the paranormal field before all the TV shows, I mean, I was a decade in before that all started happening. I wasn't surprised that it became a popular thing once the web really started taking over, because all it took is for people to have the ability to share anonymously.
Yeah.
And then I knew it would
I
kind of blow
see.
up.
Why?
right?
But why do you think people are sharing? Why do you think the anonymously thing
Okay.
was it? Because they don't want to sound
I'll
crazy.
give you an example. Yeah, the morning after I had my first experience, and I remember sitting there just staring at my breakfast, and my best friend yells my name. He's like, "Chad," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What are you doing?" And I remember just sitting there thinking, okay, this earth-shattering event just happened that just ripped apart my belief structure. And I can't tell a person, because I will be a liar.
Right.
I will be crazy.
Yeah.
I will be seeking attention. But yet this event happened. This happened in my life. It's just like when I always say to people at events when they show up, it's like, if you came here for me to convince you that ghosts exist, I can't do that, because you have to experience it to be convinced. But what I can do is tell you I believe and show you why.
Well, Chad, it also says that you debunk, and it says you developed a reputation as a leading debunker, and you discovered rational explanations to many of the world's most famous paranormal. Which one that was a famous one that you kind of thought
Well,
had a rational explanation to it?
One of the most famous ones was it was something that was publicly thrown out there by networks and everybody else. In Louisville, Kentucky, there's the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. And it is this 5-story, 180,000 square foot abandoned tuberculosis hospital. And these, the legends that were on TV now this time said a couple things. They said that 60,000 people died, in this building.
What a shitty hospital.
And-
Exactly.
One of the worst.
They're like, we keep losing them every fucking time.
I'd hate to go there.
Well, and
Okay.
we knew when streptomycin was invented, and we knew when that's the cure for it, and we also knew when the building switched over and became like this geriatrics home, and we also could through our own research we found a statewide number of people who were basically afflicted with tuberculosis. And what we figured out is that if it was 60,000 people, literally one person would have to be dying every like 1.2 seconds, like in the building.
Right.
I'm like, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? At the same time, in room on floor 5, there was a story and a legend of this nurse ghost, supposedly, that became pregnant by a doctor there, and he killed her and buried her body, and that she later hung herself in room 503. We were able to, her name right now slips my mind. This was, back in 2006 that we did this. But we were able to determine that there was no one by her name ever hired there, according to the logs and the records. There's certainly nowhere on the property that anybody knows of anybody being buried as far as her. But more importantly, what they're calling room 503, if you look at the original schematics, room 503 was a hallway.
Okay.
It wasn't a room, so there's no way she hung herself in a hallway. So it's things like this that we do when we go into places because you want to determine what is real. If a legend's fake, I don't want to chase a fake legend.
Right. What
You know
becomes
what I mean?
what becomes legend that turned out to be nonsense. That does hurt the cause.
Right.
The ones
right.
that are fake.
I totally agree. And just the thing is, it's like you have to be skeptical in order to, I think, A, to be taken seriously, but B, to find out what's real. You know what I mean? You don't want to waste your time running after something that's just simply made up.
In the movie, it said that you were not doing this anymore. That you were not doing paranormal investigation.
Yeah, I've done it for a long time, and the primary reason is I truly believe this footage to be authentic, and that was my goal. My goal throughout my career, I wanted to capture that piece of evidence. That is what pushed me and drove me to do it.
So do you feel like this was it? Like that you found like your crowning?
I think he's done it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm extremely honored that fate and destiny put me in a place where I could tell the story and play a role in it getting out there. You know what I mean?
Do you think other ghosts are pissed at NoFace for showing footage? They're like, dude, they caught you on tape. You fucked. You fucked it up for all of us.
NoFace has always been an egomaniac.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to take a look around the corner. I was just looking to see if anyone was there. I didn't know they left the camera on.
I didn't know.
All right, he's doing his fucking lightning trick. Why isn't he in trouble? He goes, because he doesn't show up physically. You're not allowed to put a shadow. Yeah, that fucking movement is...
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's creepy as
chilling.
shit.